This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time!
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah!
I finished these fights.
Give me a hell yeah!
Top Rope Nation.
Learn to love it! It's the best thing going today.
Episode 47 of the Top Rope Nation podcast. We're back full time. This is Ryan Drosty of PopCulture.com, joined by Kyle Russ and Justin Joint. We're here to talk all the latest in pro wrestling, and this has been a crazy week in the world of wrestling. We had a pay-per-view. We had a much talked about edition of Monday Night Raw on Monday night, and SmackDown, a main event that's got people talking. So, Justin, how's it going, man? How's your week going this week?
It's been a real roller coaster of emotions. Obviously, you pointed out last week that we're all going to WrestleMania, and this is going to be my first WrestleMania. And, you know, I've been a fan for a really long time. My very first memory of wrestling was evil Earl Hebner, the Twin, interfering in the match that cost Hogan the title, where Andre gave it to DiBiase. And so I've been really hoping, even though his match quality has dropped dramatically, I've been hoping and praying that we get Taker at Mania.
You have had your heartstrings tugged at quite a bit this week, Justin, because the stories that have been going around, Taker's out, Taker's in, we've been texting back and forth. I think there is a pretty good chance we're still going to get The Undertaker. I hope for your sake, because we're going to be there together, and it's just going to ruin our weekend if The Undertaker's not there. Kyle, how's it going over there in Cleveland, Ohio?
I don't know, man. I kind of feel like one of the luchadors from the Nitro era. 5 minutes notice, get the fuck out there, man. Do something.
Kyle was not sure if we were recording tonight. We had kind of communicated earlier today, but I guess we didn't confirm. And we're like, Kyle, where you at? He's like, oh, shit, I'm going to get my stuff together. So we're kind of winging it this week. But, hey, I think in the past, some of our best shows have been when we were kind of just going off the cuff, so we'll see what happens. But had some positive feedback on last week's show. It's good to be back with you guys talking professional wrestling. And I do want to say before we get started, if you are enjoying this show, if you could go on iTunes and leave us a review, a 5-star rating. You see, the problem we're having right now as we get back into the swing of things is we hadn't done a show in like 6 months, so I think we've kind of been pushed to the back of the line with all the thousands of professional wrestling podcasts. So if you guys could just go on there and flood iTunes with 5-star reviews, that would help get us noticed. We would greatly appreciate it. If you listen through Stitcher Radio, you can leave us a rating on there as well. Or topropenation.com. Our entire library is there as well. So I think I wanted to start out.
Hold on. I say, if nothing else, just at least say we're better than Brad Shepard, for fuck's sake.
Oh, my God. I wasn't going to go there, but yes. Sorry, Brad. I've been associated with Brad Shepard a little bit in the past, and all I'm going to say about that is I am shocked that anybody considers Brad Shepard an insider on professional wrestling. I can assure you from my dealings with this guy, he is not a real insider of professional wrestling.
Meltzer who? Brad's the real deal.
Probably the worst Twitter comment in the history of Twitter.com.
That was bad. And trust me, Meltzer hasn't exactly had a banner 12 months either, but come on.
Yeah. Brock Lesnar and the much talked about no-show. When you guys were watching this, did you think like for a minute with that Reigns promo it was legit? I mean, there was a lot of people, oh my God, is this real? And that is when pro wrestling is at its best, when you can't really tell. So I like that aspect of it. But personally, I mean, it was pretty clear that what they were doing with Reigns was trying to make Brock the bad guy, kind of like 2004 WrestleMania. Justin, did you question the legitimacy of that as you were watching?
I didn't buy it as Reigns was, because he kept talking about how the guys in the back aren't going to be happy about this, but I'm going to say it anyways. I don't believe any of that. I think that is, I don't know if the plan for the entire night was for Lesnar not to show up, but certainly at some point they decided that was the direction they were going to go. And I think it was 1,000 times more effective than if they would have had some weird back and forth between Heyman and Reigns or whatever. I thought it was really effective, and it really drew a line in the sand for fans where, either you're going to be rooting for this guy who shows up day in and day out, who a lot of people have hated, or else you're going to have to cheer for, a part-timer who very well will be leaving for the UFC after WrestleMania.
Yeah, Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on what Justin just said. Whenever somebody says they're not going to like what I'm about to say in the back, that's code word for this is completely approved by those in the back. So, I mean, there was a shred. I mean, I was caught off guard when he said Lesnar's not here. I'm like, oh, that's odd. They were promoting him as being here like up until 10 minutes ago. Okay, this is a little different. But it really was smart the way they did it. Again, piggybacking off what Justin said, the promo itself was far more effective in accomplishing the goal that they want to accomplish, which is making Roman Reigns somewhat of a babyface, I guess, at least at WrestleMania. He's never going to be a universal babyface, but at least more, just basically making sure he's not booed out of the building, I guess, might be the goal. What he said was a lot more effective than had they just done a standard back and forth between him and Paul Heyman. And it's really odd. Meltzer talked about this. I can't remember if he talked about this in an update or in the Observer, but what an interesting kind of thing it is with the fans, how they, there is a swath of the fan base that really resents the fact that Brock Lesnar's a part-timer, and not just him, just the idea of part-timers. You hear about it all the time. Oh, why are there so many part-timers on WrestleMania? And I'm not someone who gets upset about part-timers personally, but if you can take that and manipulate your audience and get people who normally would not cheer for Roman Reigns to cheer him, then that's a huge success. Now, it was just 1 week. Reports were that he still got booed, he being Reigns, during the dark match. But we shall see. I think given what WWE wants to accomplish, this is the best way to do it.
I'm looking back at Monday night. So Justin and Kyle and myself, we've got an ongoing group text, like I'm sure a lot of you guys listening to. And I'm about an hour behind. I'm watching the show on DVR, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up. And Justin, Roman mother effing Reigns. And then Kyle's like, I was just about to text that. Justin's like, that was sensational. Like, what do I have to look forward to right now? So, Justin, you had written, battle lines have been drawn. Either you support part-timers who don't give a F about WWE, or you support Reigns. Exactly, right? I mean, this was really good booking. I agree with what Kyle was saying there, because it almost like backs the fans, the real wrestling fans, it kind of backs them into supporting Reigns. And, like with WrestleMania 20, when Brock was on his way out, and Goldberg was on his way out, that match was a disaster. But I think they want that kind of reaction for Brock, obviously. And now with Brock, he was photographed with Dana White in Las Vegas. There's the rumors about him going back to UFC. I think it's pretty easy to make him into the outsider. And the reports this week said that at one point he was written to be in the show, and then they rewrote the show shortly before Raw started. So yeah, I think they made a good move. I thought it was great.
Just for the record, I'm not against part-timers either. My spite comes more from just being over this Brock Lesnar reign. Not even just this title reign, but just him in general. I'm okay if he would just kind of go away for a while.
Oh, yeah, I would be too. And I think there probably was a shred of truth when Roman was sort of, taking upon himself to be the voice of the locker room. I think there's a lot of people that are just sort of sick of Brock Lesnar. You can argue that his title reign has really hurt the creative of Raw because, somebody we're going to talk about a lot, I guess, in the next half hour, Braun Strowman, he was really stunted by the fact that, okay, Brock's the champ, Roman's the guy they want to put over, but Braun's really getting over, and his upward mobility is kind of hindered by the pecking order because you have the part-time champion and the heir apparent, and well, he's just sitting third from the top.
Yeah, if Brock Lesnar never wrestled another match for WWE, I would not shed a tear, to be completely honest with you. I'm ready for the entire Brock Lesnar era to be over. I feel like this guy is just so boring at this point. He wrestles the same match. Like, the German suplex stuff is the worst thing to ever happen to him. He wrestles the same match every time out. We know he's capable of more than that, but he's kind of fallen into this like lazy match routine. He's only around a few times, every couple months. And I agree with what Kyle said. It has stunted Braun, because by any logic, Braun Strowman would have been world champion at some point in the last 6 months if Brock Lesnar wasn't their champion.
Yeah, I mean, Roman Braun any other year is a title program.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, but I'll say this, Braun, to your point, he kind of had a bit of a renaissance in 2017. Ironically, the Strowman match was the one bad one that he had. But the SummerSlam main event was good, the four-way. The match with AJ was good. And yeah, you can talk about, all right, AJ can have a good match with everybody except Kevin Owens, apparently. And then the four-way, had a lot of, bells and whistles. But, he's had a good run. It's just, when you look back, he's been around now for 6 years, right? He came back in 2012. Do I have that? Yeah. So this reign has actually been 3 times as long as his initial run. That's a long run when you think about it. And I don't think, I just want Brock to leave is any kind of indictment on the work he's done over the last 6 years. I just think it's been 6 years. He's done it all. It's time to move on. That used to just be a regular thing in wrestling. Like, you'd be around for 6 years. You'd work babyface. You'd work heel. You worked everybody in the company. And you just go because there's nothing left to do.
It just seems like in that 6 years, there hasn't really been like any twists and turns with his character. You know what I mean? Like, it's been exactly the same. That's why it's so stale, in my opinion.
No, you're right. I mean, once the Suplex City thing got over, he absolutely started coasting. And he had a terrible 2016, I thought. Realistically, this match with Reigns should have happened 2 years ago in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at that WrestleMania where Reigns beat Triple H, that really didn't do anything for Reigns. And Brock, beating Dean Ambrose, that whole program was a disaster and set Dean back a long time. It was actually a net negative when you look at it. I mean, it certainly didn't get Brock over any more than he already was. So, yeah, I mean, he has coasted. He's not that compelling for me, but it's been a good run that just, I think, needs to end. And I hope he doesn't pull some Hogan-type shit and, like, hold the promotion up for money to do one last job. Because that'd be a shame.
Is that what he's doing with the UFC stuff? Do you think he's posturing for a new WWE contract? Do you think there's any chance he's actually going back to the UFC?
Well, what's the deal that... Yes, I do think that there's a good chance he goes back to the UFC. He wants to. I think he would if it wasn't for the suspension stuff and the fact that he got such a cozy deal, obviously, from WWE. Mm-hmm. But what's the deal where he's technically under contract till August?
Like with WWE?
Meltzer's reporting that the contract technically runs through August. But I don't think he has to work past Mania or something like that. There was some sort of freeze because of that time where they let him go work UFC. So I don't know. If how many contracted dates he has left. But yeah, he's posturing right now. It's the same thing like he did before Mania 31.
Yeah. So if that is the case, then I wonder if he could work that into the time he has to sit out, to return. Was it 6 months? He's got to be back in the testing pool before he can fight again.
Yes.
So he could announce he's going back to UFC in April and then return in October, potentially, like shortly after the WWE deal ends. I don't know. I guess they could work that in his favor, but I don't know. He's getting pretty old to fight in UFC. I think he could definitely still beat a lot of guys, but I don't think he would get a title shot or anything like that if he goes back to UFC.
UFC's got an issue. They don't have a lot of stars anymore.
Yeah.
They're certainly in terms of star power way down from their high point.
Oh yeah, I actually have not been interested. I used to like UFC. I have not followed it in years. I'm just not interested anymore.
I would concur with that. I certainly have, my interest levels fallen way, way, way down compared to where it used to be. Ironically, during the time when Brock was there.
Yeah. Justin, were you ever a UFC fan?
No, not really. If I had friends that were getting together for a show, I have no problem sitting down and watching it, but it's nothing I pay attention to. I prefer my fights to be choreographed.
Ironically, the last UFC pay-per-view I ordered was the last Rousey fight a little over a year ago, and that was a waste of money. So, yeah, that's the last time I really got into UFC. So, speaking of Ronda Rousey, what'd you guys think of her going from Sunday night at Elimination Chamber, where it was a little shaky, I would say, to Monday, which I thought was much better? Would you guys concur, or what did you guys think of her performance on Elimination Chamber into Raw? Kyle. Or go ahead, Justin. Whoever.
I was just going to say she's got a ways to go on the mic, especially on Sunday. But, I mean, really all they need to do is just basically treat her like Brock Lesnar. I mean, she just needs to be an ass whooper, and she's got those kind of facial expressions down. In the spot with slamming Triple H to the table was great, and I'd continue down the silent ass whooper path.
I think people forget how hard it is to do a pro wrestling promo, especially if you're not used to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
The people like, oh, she's not that good at it. It's like, well, okay. She obviously has a ton of charisma. That's how she got over in the UFC. That's why the WWE's interested in bringing her in. But she was nervous, and I wonder if it had to do with the fact that it was in her mind, the collective minds of WWE, that, okay, there could be a backlash against you by the live crowd. And they were like, yeah, don't mind the live crowd, do what you do. And I wonder if she got tripped up by that. But it was her first time doing it, so I wasn't someone who was going to crucify her for cutting a bad promo her first night. And if you look at celebrities, even the great celebrities who have been involved with WWE through the years, I mean, you had your boy Donald Trump calling Bobby Lashley Bobby Lindsay his first time out. That show still set a record on pay-per-view. Lawrence Taylor had to have his lawyer cut his first promo, for God's sake, after the Bam Bam Bigelow angle. And, Mr. T just mumbled a bunch of unintelligible stuff while doing fist bumps with Hogan. So
Can I just throw in Michael Buffer referring to Bret the Hitman Clark while we're at it?
Yeah, that's that too. Yeah. I mean, people, it's like, yes, these people are accomplished, in their own fields, but she's never, I mean, yes, a lot of her UFC stuff and why she was people called it, they were pro wrestling style promos. But it's different when you're out there, man, live. And the promo wasn't good, but they got him back with the angle, like Justin said. As soon as she put Triple H to the table, they had him. And then, it's funny that they ended Monday with the sucker punch, because Triple H that whole time he seemed very absent emotionally from the segment. I was looking at him behind Stephanie while Stephanie was talking. I'm like, is he fantasy booking NXT right now? What is he doing? It doesn't even look like he's present in the situation. So I was not expecting that sucker punch. That was good. And yeah, it's I think we now know our answer who Rousey's partner is going to be. And it's a good idea for WWE. Again, I mean, front page, ESPN.com, big deal. Ramona Shelburne, by the way, your girl. That slap was real from Stephanie. She has welts on her face. I cannot believe. I mean, I was just laughing. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. People who don't know Ramona Shelburne, and she's on ESPN a lot. She's one of their typical on-site reporters, and she kind of got the job of following Ronda late in her UFC career. And she sends out a tweet, for those asking, that slap was real. Ronda had welts on her face. I'm laughing the World Wrestling Federation has done it again. My hat's off.
Yeah, I mean that's the drawback when you get the mainstream sports outlets covering pro wrestling.
It's great from the WWE's perspective to have that. If you have someone from ESPN going, that slap was real.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the delivery on the promo was obviously shaky, like you said. I thought her facial reactions were outstanding, though. That's where you see like her acting ability come in, and like just the glare she was giving Stephanie. Just that was awesome stuff. I do think you're onto something with her being thrown off by the live crowd, because it did seem like the crowd in Vegas was kind of anti-Rousey, if I remember right. And then like halfway through, it sounded like all of a sudden the crowd was behind her, and visibly you could see like a group of people in the front row that were really cheering her on. I don't know if that's like the crew she brought. I assume it is.
Yeah, that was the UFC fighter section of it, and they were mic'd strangely well.
Yeah,
by the way.
It seemed like they changed the way the crowd was mic'd during the segment, because then all of a sudden Ronda was just getting like a really good reaction. But yeah, I think that probably did throw her off quite a bit. But it is a big deal. Go ahead.
What do we think of Kurt Angle as the partner?
I was going to go into that next. I think it's kind of a letdown, personally. I don't know what you guys think.
After TLC and Survivor Series, I'm just at that point where I guess he's at that age where I am more worried about him when he's wrestling than I am enjoying the actual match.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially when you think he's probably going to have to carry most of the match. We talked about that last week, that in Rousey's first WWE match, I don't think she's going to get the majority of the time in the ring. So you're going to be talking, and then we talked about how like Stephanie isn't going to be able to work that much credibly. She's going to have to do some heel, attack, run type stuff. And so you're going to have Trips and Angle in there most of the match.
And, obviously it's been a long time, but they worked together a lot back in the day, so they should know each other. You know what sucks, though, if you're WWE, is that you had to call Angle into action early. Because remember, that was not the plan.
Yeah.
That was that was Roman Reigns was out with the measles or the mumps or something like that. And they're like, oh, shit, our pay-per-view main event just went out the window. And they had to hotshot Kurt Angle's return with no TV hype. Mm-hmm. And on like 2 days' notice. So if Kurt had never wrestled since his return, he was coming back, I guess it would be a slightly bigger deal, but the bottom line is it's Rousey, and that's the attraction. I think her partner is kind of, it helps if it's someone credible like Kurt Angle. And if they do ESPN media, him being a former Olympic gold medalist, that's a good, ESPN will like that. It's something they'll talk about in interviews. It'll make WWE seem more credible. But the reality is, Kurt is probably in the role that Paul Orndorff was in WrestleMania 1, where it's like, all right, he's a really over guy, and that helps the match, but he's like the fourth wheel.
Yeah.
He's probably the least important component of a match. But the plan was to do Triple H Angle originally for WrestleMania, and so, they left things open-ended at Survivor Series, and it kind of works, I think.
I think it's just a letdown, because I was really hoping they could get Rock. We talked about that last week, and that's the story they built going back to 31.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's interesting, and maybe we can pivot to this next. They probably can't commit to Braun in that spot, and Braun was the other name I'd seen thrown out for Rousey's tag partner. I don't know how much sense that would have made given his character, but obviously with kind of the question marks surrounding Reigns with this steroid implication, this alleged steroid implication, they've kind of got to have Braun in this reserve role right now as far as WrestleMania goes. And so they can't commit to him in a big match like that.
Right. So for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, supposedly WWE is kind of planning like a 5-way match for the Intercontinental title. If you've been watching Raw the last couple weeks, it's been pretty clear like a triple threat was on the way with The Miz and Balor and Rollins. We saw this past week Miz forced to wrestle Rollins and Balor on the same night. But supposedly the word is Strowman and Elias could be thrown into that match. It could be a 5-way. But as Kyle alluded to, the word is Braun Strowman is kind of being kept on ice in case they need him to fill in for Roman Reigns. So, Kyle, I don't know if you want to tell the story. Maybe you're more I know what's going on, but maybe you know the inner workings a little better. Basically, Roman Reigns was accused of getting steroids from like a Miami steroid dealer who's now in jail, correct?
Yes.
And there's a movie producer involved as well.
Yes, and so apparently there's this evidence that's going to be rolled out, although they keep saying it's going to be rolled out and then it's like delayed. So who knows what this is going to be, but obviously, given everything WWE is going on with the TV negotiations, they don't want any kind of controversy. And if this is something serious with Roman Reigns, and he's already put his neck out and said he doesn't even know who Richard Rodriguez is. Mm-hmm. So if he's proven to be a liar, that's bad. And they would, I guess, pull him from the main event and put Braun in there. That's why, because it was very odd. I don't know if you guys caught it when they had Braun get his heat back after the Elimination Chamber on Sunday and just kind of kick Reigns' ass. I'm like, well, that was odd.
Right.
Like, I was like, are they going to are they going to do another singles match on Raw? So I think that's kind of what they have. As far as the 5-way, I don't buy that. I think as long as everything's cool with Reigns, I think they're putting Braun in the Andre.
Well, that was the other report out, was that the Andre might be canceled, which seems that seems no way. I mean, they got the Andre documentary coming out on HBO in April. How could they not do the Andre Battle Royal?
Yeah, that was from Brian Alvarez, who's I'm not sure if he's last time he watched Monday Night Raw, to be quite honest. Given his,
yeah, I got to jump in real quick and just totally agree with Kyle that I really hope it's just a triple threat with Miz, Finn, and Seth. And get Braun to the Andre. I think that would be way more impactful for him than just being in a kind of a clusterfuck of a 5-way match.
And we got to stop with these 5-way and 6-way match. I know there's going to be some at WrestleMania, but Jesus Christ,
yeah, they're going crazy with that lately.
5. And here's the thing too, Justin and Ryan, and we all texted about this Sunday night. Braun is kind of like it's interesting too. We talk about Andre the Giant, the documentary coming up. Undertaker's probably going to officially hang it up, we think, after this WrestleMania. Brock is leaving the company. Braun is the guy who now fills that special attraction void the company's always had. And what's key with that is, like the Undertaker, Braun's not a guy you put in the Intercontinental title picture.
No.
And to, like what Justin said, it'd be a waste of him just to be in an IC title match where he's not going to win. Mm-hmm. If you want to make that Andre Battle Royal worth a damn, you got to put some over guys in it. Yeah. And, I think it'd be fun to watch Braun throw everybody out. That's what people want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I had assumed that this Andre Battle Royal is going to get way more attention than ever because of that documentary. I think it airs right around Mania time on HBO. Maybe just a couple days later.
I think it's the Thursday. Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's in the next week. So, how could they not do an Andre Battle Royal? That just defies all logic. Yeah, I agree. Braun would be the logical choice to win with all the attention on the match and just how he could perform. Plus, you look at Miz and Balor and Rollins, who could have just a world beater of a match in a triple threat, and if you clog that up as a 5-way, yeah, I'm not really into that either. So,
what did we think? What did we think about how they built that triple threat on Monday, and by having Rollins beat Miz, and then Balor just sort of kind of came out and picked up the scraps. I know they tried to put some heat on him by having the Miz Taraj beat him down, but then him doing the same thing. To me, they should have saved Balor for next week rather than have Miz wrestle and lose twice in a row.
Yeah.
I think it would have been just in terms of stretching the story, letting it breathe. This is just me personally picking nits. Well, I would have saved it for a 2-week thing.
The way they did it, they made Finn come off kind of heelish with the way they we're talking about Seth looking at Finn kind of like Finn was trying to take his thunder and whatnot.
Exactly. Actually, when I watched that, all I could think of was last week's show, episode 46, when Justin, we were talking about Balor and how he could go heel and be a better character and everything, and Justin said, he always comes out with that shit-eating grin on his face. And when he came out on Monday night to wrestle, he came out and he got up on the apron and he had that big smile on his face while there's Miz in the background, who just had a long match with Seth Rollins. It was kind of, I could not help but think of that comment you made last week. It was total heel stuff. All right, now I get to wrestle the guy who's all beaten down, big smile on his face. Yeah, that was definitely heel stuff, I thought.
it was really tough to cheer for Balor. And I think they knew it because that's why they threw the Heat segment in with the Miz Taraj beating him down. I think they're like, oh God, it's kind of like tantamount to the Money in the Bank cash-in, where a guy, waits till the guy gets his ass beat, comes out with the briefcase and beats him. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a similar methodology there. So it was interesting. I don't know what they're doing with Balor. Personally, I would have him be the Intercontinental Champion coming out of Mania. I said that last week. He's a guy who really, really needs a title, I think, to remain over right now.
I agree.
He needs it more than Rollins does.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure. And plus, I think Rollins is probably going to be transitioned when Reigns wins the title into a feud with Reigns pretty quickly, don't you think? I could see that happening.
Yeah, I could see that, yeah.
Because they've kind of been building Rollins back up as a championship contender. But speaking of building someone up, I did want to hit on when we were talking about the Elimination Chamber, how it was kind of ironic how even though Reigns got the victory, there's no doubt that Braun Strowman was the guy put over the most in that match, despite not winning. Would you guys agree? I mean, he was made to look out like the star.
Yep, which that's what kind of made the ending weird to me. It's like WWE just can't help themselves with Reigns, like fucking with the fans and whatnot. It's, they have Braun just beat the crap out of everybody. And if they would have just had like Reigns and Rollins take Braun down, maybe save a little bit more face with Reigns with the crowd, but having Reigns just end up getting the victory on him was kind of weird. But
I'll tell you what they should have done. Exactly. Actually, now that you said that, not to interrupt you, but there was the spot where like every guy in the match covered Braun and he kicked out. That should have been where Braun got pinned right there. That would have ultimately saved him face, like, all those other dudes covering him and pinning him. Did you guys notice that?
I noticed that spot, and I did think there was a chance he was getting eliminated there. It's the psychology of how Braun was booked is interesting in that match. First of all, I think I'm like a lot of people, and I saw it coming. Once Braun eliminated like the first two guys, you're like, oh my goodness, he's gonna eliminate everybody except Roman, and then Roman's gonna beat him. Mm-hmm. And in their mind, that makes meaning WWE, that makes Roman look awesome. But it was really funny because a lot of people in my timeline were like, okay, this is how it's going to go. Braun's going to eliminate everyone but Roman. People were calling that. But there were a lot of people on my timeline, Brian Alvarez, chief among them, who were like so upset about the finish of that match. And it's funny when you see that because I guess doing that, it didn't really get Reigns over in anybody's eyes. It just kind of pissed some people off who thought they really were going with Braun in that match. Now, I think those people are kind of dumb and they're out to lunch for thinking that. But, I guess that's what it did. There were a lot of people. I mean, I don't know about your guys' timeline. I like to curate mine a little bit better, try not to have people who are out to lunch on it. But there were people, I saw retweets of people who were like, I can't believe they did do that. Why didn't Braun win? I'm like, oh, no. But, they really did. And it was funny. So the psychology of it backfired. They actually made people want to see Braun win, and when he didn't, kind of no one was happy. I thought that chamber match was a bit of a disappointment overall. And I don't know if it was any particular one thing's fault. It just didn't seem, I don't know, I had high hopes for it, especially coming off that gauntlet match. And it was just kind of okay. Mm-hmm. I thought, speaking out to lunch, what's Meltzer doing? Saying the men's chamber was better than the women's chamber.
I was just going to say that. I was actually going to bring up his star rating. I think he gave the women's like 3 1/4 and the men's 3 3/4.
Yeah, I would flip that totally. I mean, I guess half star doesn't. He'd be like, "Well, think about it. Reading is your friend. Half star isn't that big of a deal." Fine, Dave. That's okay. I just think that, I just think that I can't see how you think the men's chamber match is better than the women's chamber.
No, I can't. I was thinking that as you were talking about it. I really enjoyed watching the women's match a lot more than the men's match, personally. What do you think, Justin?
I'll tell you what. I definitely enjoyed the women's Elimination Chamber match better. But even more than that was, I was starting to get a little irritated at the end because there was a moment. There was probably at least 5 to 10 seconds where I was like, what the fuck are they doing having Alexa Bliss break character like this with the crying? And I caught on eventually before the twist, but That was good. She is amazing.
Yeah, that was excellent. I really like that too. It was a good way to open the show for sure. And overall, I would have gave that pay-per-view a thumbs up. But I did think I agree with Kyle. The men's was a little disappointing, but I did like how even though Braun lost, they did put him over strong, and he kind of ended the show, on his feet and got the beat down in on Roman. But yeah, I probably would have had Braun not eliminated just solely by Roman Reigns, but definitely that spot where all the other dudes covered him. I think that would have been that would have been the best way for him to save face, I think. So either way, we'll see what happens. But supposedly, like we said, Braun is being kind of kept there just in case with the steroid stuff. I'm not sure anything's actually going to come of that, but yeah, we'll see. Do you guys think? Well, go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
I wanted to talk about the Raw women more because that's a kind of interesting scenario for WrestleMania. How we don't really know. We think we know, but we aren't exactly sure what the Raw Women's title program is going to be. They're still kind of trying to trick you into thinking it's going to be Asuka and Alexa, but I think it's pretty clear that's not happening. Mm-hmm. If it was, they would just have made the match by now. I guess they're waiting for Fastlane to be done with for Asuka to officially challenge Charlotte. So what do we think the women's title match? Is it just going to be Alexa versus Nia Jax? Obviously, I mean, you talk about Braun being kept strong in the men's chamber. They really went out of their way to make Nia Jax look strong, both at the Chamber pay-per-view and then Raw the next night. So it's clear she's going to be in the match. My only question is, do they do her and Alexa as a one-on-one title match and then Bayley and Sasha as a one-on-one match or do they combine that whole thing into a four-way for time constraints?
I like the idea of just Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax. I mean, it's like a David and Goliath, only if David had a fantastic resting bitch face and Goliath was actually pretty hot. That's more interesting to me, especially with, there was a longtime friendship there that they've had on Raw that they could do something interesting with. And the Bayley and Sasha thing, I don't think that needs to be resolved at WrestleMania. That could certainly be something that could just be put in on like a women's battle royal to get all the ladies on the card. I would just love to see both women's championships be a one-on-one match.
Yeah, I think they're probably going to do 3 singles matches, but I don't know. I could go either way on that. I feel like Bayley and Sasha, just because they've had such great matches in the past, they're going to have to do a singles match out of that. I do think Nia and Alexa is going to be the match, and Asuka and Charlotte. It is kind of confusing watching it because they seem to like kind of lean towards, it's definitely going to be Alexa and Asuka, but without officially announcing it. So I agree with Kyle that they're just kind of waiting for Fastlane to get over.
It's interesting if they do the 2 singles matches. That's kind of the same storyline though, where it's going to be former friends facing off. And the issue with Mania is, even though it's like a 6-hour show, there's only so many matches, and man, having 3 look, I'm all for it. I'm not against it, but like, it seems like having 3 singles women's matches is a lot. Mm-hmm. And one of them is going to they're not going to put a title match on the pre-show.
Yeah, no. If they go that route, I guarantee Bayley and Sasha is on the pre-show, and at that point, don't even have a singles match.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I'm wondering if they do, and I'm not saying that I'm in favor of this. I'm just saying I wonder if, although they are getting rid of the brand-only pay-per-views, so it's not like the pay-per-views moving forward are going to have a ton of room to breathe for the mid-card, but I wonder if they're just going to have, all right, well, we've got 2 sets of former friends in this one match for the title in the interest of time. I can see it happening. I would not rule that out.
It is kind of weird that we're finally going to get this Sasha Bayley match on the main roster with like the split happening, and it's not going to be the title match. When you look at it, you would think, go back a couple of years, this is definitely going to be like a WrestleMania women's title match, and now we're debating if it's even going to be on the show.
And by the way, I've liked how they've done it.
Yeah.
I loved how Sasha turned on Bayley. Corey Graves, I liked how he kind of planted the seeds in commentary. It's what a good commentator should do. Sasha turned, and I loved the tag spot on Raw, where Bayley dropped off the apron and didn't want to tag Sasha. Whether she's going to be the babyface or heel once the split happens, at least it makes her not look like an idiot for doing that. And Meltzer's like, oh, no one reacted to that. What Raw was he watching?
I'll tell you what, Bayley has to be the heel coming out of this.
Has to?
Has to.
Ooh, disagree.
Absolutely has to. And let me explain why. Because we talked about this a lot in the past. The Sasha Banks character is a heel character. Yes, she does her best work as a heel character. But Sasha Banks is over regardless. If she's a heel or a face, she's over with the crowd. Bayley is dead on the main roster. I'm sorry. Like, the character doesn't work like it did in NXT, and we can say that for an abundance of characters. The only way you make Bayley fresh and interesting is to turn her heel and just give her a complete makeover. That's why I think she has to be the heel. She has to be the ultimate swerve where this cookie-cutter babyface character finally goes heel. Because either way, Sasha's over, but if Sasha turns heel, Bayley's still in the same spot. I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
That's a compelling argument. I'm not gonna. It can go either way, I think. But no, you make a compelling argument that you're right. That the whole Sasha's going to be the one over regardless. Mm-hmm. There's something to be said there because here's the thing. Okay, if they do the split and Sasha's the heel, Sasha's going to win the first match. The heel, wrestling psychology 101 says after the heel wins the first match. And that's just going to hurt Bayley more in that scenario. And you've got to wonder her momentum then in that situation if she's the baby face, getting beaten initially. Yeah.
I just think I think a swerve where she turns and then, she comes out and gives like this hopefully great heel promo for the first time would just be an awesome moment. I think really spur some interest in this Bayley character that is just not connected on the main roster at all. I don't think. Justin, not on board?
I think it's an interesting argument, but for one, I don't think WWE has the balls to do something that creatively risky move. But I would certainly be into it.
Mm-hmm. Like, you think they'd be worried that they're going to ruin the Bayley character forever if it doesn't work?
Yeah, I think what makes Bayley, I think what sells merchandise and makes people even somewhat interested in her character is the hugs, the colors, the balloon blow up things.
Oh God, that merch is so bad. Oh, her merch is just, oh God, it's terrible.
Yeah. It's not being marketed to you, to be fair.
I don't know, man. Have you seen some of the dudes wearing the Bayley shirts? It's a little creepy. I'm sure you'll see them down in New Orleans, and maybe if you get a few beers in, you can have a conversation with those guys.
Yeah,
don't go alone.
I'm going to warn you right now, Kyle. I'm a hugger.
Oh no! But Ryan said something earlier that I kind of agree with. This sort of golden goose of Bayley, and oh yeah, she's we saw what she did in NXT, and we can repeat that on the main roster. I don't know. Are we sure about that?
No, I don't think so.
I just don't think that character. That Jim Cornette. I think I've mentioned this on previous episodes. Jim Cornette used to have a quote, He just said it a long time ago. If it works in front of 2,000 people, it's going to work in front of 20,000 people. I don't know if that applies to modern wrestling anymore.
Yeah. I think the thing with Bayley with NXT is just that you got the same fans like over and over and over, and they felt really connected to her because they saw her like every couple of weeks, and you have the whole story with the little girl Izzy or whatever her name is, always in the front row. I think it's just the intimacy of that crowd, and I always said I said this when we started doing the show that I didn't think that the character was going to work on the main roster, and it hasn't. Definitely hasn't. So I agree with you, Kyle.
To be fair, it's an underdog character. And now Vince McMahon does not have a good track record booking underdog baby faces. But at the same time, it was a weird conundrum they faced when they brought her to the main roster. Because I heard, didn't we say this last week? There's some people who say, well, just repeat everything you did with her in NXT. Just, start from scratch and do the same damn thing on the main roster. Well, that's being intellectually dishonest to the people who watch NXT. Mm-hmm. You can't really do that. And then at the same time, so, her not succeeding right away and like not being this she wouldn't work as a dominant babyface champion. There were some people who I think were expecting, okay, all right, build the frickin' division around her. She's, that's not her character, really. I mean, her losing and kind of having this self-doubt, I think, is what her character is. I just don't know if that ceiling is there on the main roster that we saw in NXT. I just don't know if it's there.
No, I completely agree. I think, and it's not a knock on her. I think she's as a good performer. It's just the character, and I think she could do so much more. She just needs just a rejuvenation.
I feel bad for her, actually. If you read her on Twitter, it seems like she's like legitimately suffering from a professional crisis of confidence. Mm-hmm. Like I think she's upset. I mean, am I wrong? Am I like?
No, I see that too. Yeah.
Things like it almost seems like she's like really down and doesn't know what to do. Like I forgot, somebody was like, what's his face? Not Johnny. Joey Mercury was like, I'm setting up a coaching thing. Come here or whatever. And he gave the date, and Bayley's like, will you coach me? I'm like, oh Jesus, like tighten up, like.
Yeah, I did not see that, but yeah, yikes. I had a couple other topics I wanted to hit. God, we're getting low on time. It's been a good conversation. We talked about Undertaker a little bit at the beginning of the show. So it looks like, according to people, it's still the plan, right?
It's gonna be him, unless if he's like physically can't do it, and I would imagine that would be known at this point if he physically can't go. That's what they're going. This whole Rey Mysterio thing, that was a planted story to throw people off the scent. They would, I shouldn't say they would never. I'll amend that by saying, if you're WWE, you can't dangle the carrot of Cena Undertaker, have the crowd react like that.
Yeah, that's what me and Justin were talking about it. I said, there's no way that they could hear that crowd reaction and not do it. No, why would he even mention it?
It's funny that Justin, and I'll throw it back to him for a retort, that he's really wants to see Taker live. Me personally, I don't really care about the Cena Taker match at all, but it sure seems like a lot of people do. And my God, fourth from the top. I mean, what a, and if you maybe throw a retirement stip in there, whew, we got a strong top of the card for WrestleMania 34, boys.
Yeah, for me, it's, as I touched on earlier, it's just about seeing Undertaker at WrestleMania, being a longtime fan, seeing that entrance, being able to say I saw Undertaker at WrestleMania. Both of you guys, are able to say that. I don't, it probably won't be a great match, but it's just something as a longtime fan I desperately want to say. And, and if I had to choose between seeing Taker, Daniel Bryan, or The Rock at WrestleMania, I'm going to choose Taker just because that's I want to have that experience as a fan.
But
have you seen Taker live before, Justin? I know you've gone to several live events, especially in the 90s.
If I did, it didn't stand out in any way, shape, or form.
Okay.
I mean, if you went to a Monday Night Raw and then in like the Attitude Era, I mean, I guess he did take some. He missed some time.
Well, that the whole biker Taker stuff too, man. You can't even count that. I hate that stuff.
And that's when I would have seen him, was during the biker Taker stuff. And I definitely never went to a Raw. It would have been a house show. I've never seen Undertaker at a pay-per-view or Raw.
I know. Didn't you go to like some wrestling challenge tapings or Superstars or something like back in the early 90s? I think you were telling me about one time.
I went to a WWF house show in Cedar Rapids where the main event was Ultimate Warrior and Sergeant Slaughter. And there was also a Savage match in there, but I can't remember who he wrestled, but that was a good time. Heart Foundation, Demolition, some, Rockers. It's all a lot of good stuff there. But yeah, and when Cena challenged Undertaker my wife was in the room with me. I like jumped up and was doing fist pumps. And then when he retracted it, I just slumped in my chair. And all I've been doing is just scouring Twitter for any kind of information regarding what this match is going to be.
Justin, we talk about this like a couple times a day. It seems like. I really hope it happens, man. It's got to happen. We're going to the show. It'll be a good moment for you, for sure.
I just don't know what else they would do with John Cena if that's not the match.
Yeah.
Well, I was telling Ryan early. I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but like when this rumors came out with Mysterio, that is such an uninspired fill-in match. If the Taker thing is not actually going to happen, like I was telling Ryan, it's like, why wouldn't you go with Braun and Cena? That's far more interesting than Mysterio.
I don't even see how they build it, to be honest with you.
I was going to say, that dynamic is weird because you got two career baby faces who really have no, I don't know what the story is between them. Like what you even do. Like, I mean, you don't want to, I mean, the ship has sailed on turning John Cena heel. Yeah. And you just Rey Mysterio. I mean, yes, okay. I know you have people listening, filthy animals for like 3 months. That's fine. He should never be a heel. Yeah. Like after Rey Mysterio should never. Rey Mysterio is the modern Ricky Steamboat. Never should be a heel.
I think the story would have to be something. You guys remember the story with Ric Flair and Randy Savage going into WrestleMania 8, I believe, where like they had the fake photos with the towels with the RF or the RS on it. It's like I think you would have to do something where Ray gets invited to John Cena's house for a dinner party, and he finds like a MAGA hat somewhere in the house and takes a picture of it.
Oh,
sorry,
man.
I had to.
I could see where this was going. Yeah. I don't know. It would be awkward. I think they have to do it. I don't even know why they would mention in the promo if they're not going to do Cena Taker. And Kyle, you mentioned fourth from the top. Is there? I mean, I don't think we should discount the fact that match could go on last. I mean, last year Taker's match went on last because it was like his retirement deal. But
as Kyle said earlier, they'd have to promote it as a retirement match.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, they may not need to. I don't know. I mean, Undertaker, make no mistake about it, went on last year because he was putting over Roman Reigns. Mm-hmm. And there also wasn't a better option to go on last, I don't think, on that show.
Well, and just the way he left with everything in the ring, like that had to go on last. Just the way the whole thing was presented.
Yes.
So. Tell you one thing, like I'm feeling lucky, kind of blessed that this is going to be my WrestleMania because the way it's shaping up is they're going to have like 4 matches that could easily go on last, and I mean one of those is the Ronda Rousey match.
Yeah, just star power alone in that one.
Yep.
Yeah, I will say that last year when Taker Reigns went on last, I was not yet on the Roman Reigns bandwagon. You guys were still hyping him up. I was not there yet, and I was kind of pissed when it happened. Like, why would this match be last? But then when the way it was presented at the end, I was, had an epiphany like, oh, that's why it was on last. There's no way it couldn't go on last.
Yeah, it was a total passing the torch match. And again, if you look, the other matches that were promoted at the top of that show, you had Brock Goldberg. That couldn't go on last. And you had Seth Triple H. No, that can't go on last.
This shit show that was Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton.
Yeah, you're not going to have a match with fucking worms in the ring going on last. I mean, Jesus Christ. So, yeah, I mean, it had to go on. Even if what they were trying to accomplish wasn't the main story of WrestleMania, there was just no other option to go on last. Here, yeah, it's pretty interesting. You could make a case for any of the top 4, either brand's title match, the mixed tag, or Cena Undertaker going on last, and that's a good thing. Although, history will tell you, maybe this doesn't matter so much in 2018, the WrestleManias that have a clearly defined main event typically do better business than the ones that are like, well, you've got 4 main events on this card.
Yeah.
They tried to do that with like Mania 19 and Mania 26, and those ones were did disappointing business, particularly 19.
Yeah, I know this is going to be the crowning Roman Reigns Mania yet again, but I just have a feeling when they make this match official, Cena Taker is just going to you heard the pop money. It's going to overshadow everything, and I feel like it's going to have to go on last, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I don't know. They're off to a really good start booking this Lesnar Reigns match.
Yeah, that's true too.
And I don't know if your boy Brian James knows, but AJ Styles is supposed to wrestle Shinsuke Nakamura at WrestleMania.
Yeah, let's not forget about that one either. I mean, I said last week, this is going to be one of the best WrestleManias in years, in my opinion, and I am pumped to go to New Orleans to hang out with you guys, all of us for the first time, the Top Rope Nation crew. We'll be seeing some other guys down there. I know Derek Chappelle is going to be there from Oversell, so it'll be cool to see him too.
For sure.
So I am big time looking forward to it. Just a few weeks' time, Kyle. We'll be sharing a beer ski together.
Yeah, I know. I just had a little minor foot surgery done. I had it done this week, so I'd be recovered in time for New Orleans. Don't want to be hobbling around like some gimp.
Definitely not. We got big plans. Are you doing a walking tour of New Orleans, by the way? You tell me about sightseeing and everything. Because Justin and I have that planned.
Oh, no, we're actually going, what is it, like one of those like speedboats through the swamp and stuff like that. Threats of alligator.
Nice.
Sweet.
Oh, yeah. I want to do that with buddy. I like to always experience the great cultures that the individual cities of this fine country have to offer.
I hope you don't run into Skinner.
Jesus, I don't
That
either.
was a good reference.
Skinner. Steve Kerr.
Oh, man. All right, guys. We are like fresh out of time. It's been a good show. We'll be talking more about the WrestleMania weekend as we get closer to New Orleans. And any of you guys that are listeners of the show, let us know. Send us a tweet. We're at Top Rope Pod. Let us know if you're going to be down there. We'd love to say what's up. And we will be back at you next Friday for another edition of Top Rope Nation. It'll be episode 48. Again, look us up on iTunes, subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating. It takes 2 seconds, and it'll help us out greatly. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you guys next week.